I hope you guys are ready for a PYXIS first impressions that you've never seen before.
Hang on. There we go. Fuck. That didn't go as planned.
It feels so good to finally have this camera in my hands. And by the way, if you want to see who was in that crash, the aftermath of it, the details, we're going to talk about it in this video. But of course, the main thing I want to talk about is my first impressions with actually using the Blackmagic PYXIS in a real world environment. So setting the stage a little bit, past weekend the creator crew got together in a awesome Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, Utah. We all brought as many cameras and gear that we could possibly think to test out. The landscape of this area was just absolutely breathtaking, literally, because I've never really stayed at this elevation before. So Kofi and I, who are used to more sea level type areas, it was a bit of a struggle. But nonetheless, I'd say we definitely put this camera through its paces. We got absolutely covered in dust. I got water splashed all over it. Oh yeah, and you're probably wondering how the PYXIS I was using broke. This was an action-packed 24 hours.
A lot happened in like a day. Like, we got here, we almost had to evacuate because of the wildfires. And then the next day, we destroyed the cameras in terms of like shooting in the dust and stuff. A car flipped over. We lost a PYXIS. Like, we actually lost one.
That's my bad. So the setup I was using this past weekend is slightly different than the setup I have right now. So the batteries I was using in Utah was just a V-mount hookup, but a while back Core actually sent me their new Nano U98X BP batteries, and these ones I highly recommend for the PYXIS. Definitely stick out quite a bit, but in terms of battery life, oh my goodness, I had a short shoot this morning where I kept it on for a little over an hour and a half, on and off recording times, but I never turned it off for that hour and a half. And when I finished, I was at 74% still. You can charge them via USB-C, they have a DTAP port, and of course I'll get more testing and more data to talk about battery life in my full review. But for my first time using these batteries, it's a huge upgrade from having the pocket internal batteries. When it comes to the media, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Angel Bird cards. Of course, we have two Type B ports back here, and I have both of the Type B ports filled up, one with a 4 terabyte and a 2 terabyte card. Now I know everyone's got their different flavors of codecs and compressions that they like. So for me personally, ever since B-Raw came out, I always rock the same constant quality Q5. Personally, I think it gives amazing quality, but man, it saves you quite a bit of space. And so shooting with that level of compression, I have both cards completely wiped right now, and the 4 terabyte is estimating about 14.5 hours of record time, and the 2 terabyte is about 7 hours, 15 minutes. So with those two cards in there, I can record over 20 hours of footage without ever having to swap out media. Now, there's a number of cages that have and are coming out for the PYXIS, but of course, since I was hanging out with Crater, I got hooked up with some Condor Blue stuff. Now I had all the accessories laid out in front of me. I could have really rigged this thing up, like my boy Kofi, who you should definitely go check out his video after the fact. His rig is absolutely nuts. And honestly, for a bigger production feature type level stuff, that is absolutely the way to go. But I was curious to build out what my daily driver setup would look like. like. And so currently I don't really have much of a cage on here at all, but I really like the fact that Condor's cage is extremely modular. So right now I'm literally just rocking this top one here to give me some extra mounting points. I can put my monitor on top, and because Blackmagic's awesome and made the side plate interchangeable, I'm also rocking their own side plate, which gives me a ton more mounting points. And I kind of created my own little airy rosette adapter piece with, again, the Condor handle right here. Now for monitors right now, I'm actually using a really old PYXIS BM2. I have had this thing for so many years. I made a review on it so long ago. But to be honest, it's my only SDI monitor, and I haven't had an SDI camera in quite some time. And of course, I'm waiting on the PYXIS monitor, as of course that's definitely going to be the easy pick to pair with the PYXIS. That will be going up top here as soon as that comes out. But that is a good segue into how the first PYXIS that I was using this weekend broke, in a way. And the piece of it that broke, you wouldn't actually be able to see, but it's the SDI port. If you work with cinema cameras, you probably already know where I'm going with this. Now, I want to be extremely clear. I don't think I broke this SDI port at all, because I followed the SDI protocol. Let's say I have my SDI port plugged in. Say the other end is plugged into a monitor. You've now created a connected current, and how you could break SDI protocol, and how if you ever want to be like fired from a professional film set, would be if I then went to do a battery swap, if I disconnected the battery before I disconnected the SDI port. So again, anyone who uses cinema cameras knows that before you do a battery swap, you will go in and disconnect the SDI port, and then you are safe to remove and swap out the battery. It may sound silly, but in that moment, you can absolutely cook an SDI cable. Now, the PYXIS I was using went through a little bit of abuse in the week prior, and that PYXIS was doing some other funky things, but technically it did break in my hands, and so I felt really bad. And to be honest, it was one of my concerns when the PYXIS was first announced, the fact that I saw it only have one SDI port. Because whether it's your fault or just an accident where the SDI port breaks on a set, you're now kind of screwed because you can't plug in a transmitter to wirelessly monitor. You can't plug in a SDI monitor. And of course, the new PYXIS monitor uses the USB-C port on the front. We've also learned that you can use a USB-C to HDMI adapter, thus allowing you to use HDMI monitors with the PYXIS. So I definitely recommend having a USB-C to HDMI adapter just in your bag, just in case. And so the SDI going out and me not being able to use a monitor happened in the first part of the day. And so for the second half, I kind of just got curious to see, I know there's going to be someone out there who buys the PYXIS and goes, well, can't I just use this side monitor? And so for the second half of the day, that's what I did. I couldn't use any external monitor. And so I was like, I'm going to get all my shots with the side monitor and just do everything from there. And I literally operated just like this for the rest of the day. And to be honest, if you absolutely had to do it, you can. Blackmagic always has very good screens, and this is a little bit smaller, being 4-inch, but you can absolutely see your composition. The viewing angles were pretty decent, and I was still able to capture a lot of great shots, including the not planned, not done on purpose little barrel roll that Lucas and Brady decided to do. Well, I don't think they decided to do it. Brady just kind of happened to because he was the passenger. But Lucas really went full send, all for the sake of us getting amazing footage of it. And to be honest, the only reason any of us are laughing about it is because they were totally fine. Thank goodness. Because, oh, by the way, this stunt also occurred while we were over 10,000 feet on the summit of a mountain. So if they would have veered off about 15 feet to the right, this could have been a totally different story, and you all wouldn't be able to enjoy a new Brady Bassett video, which is also out and you should check out after this video as well.
You got all your teeth?
Dude, I just want to make sure we got some vertical content.
This is vertical. That's very vertical.
We said the camera vertical, not the car.
Okay.
I'm great.
Oh, sorry.
After they got out and everything was fine, we were all kind of just like laughing at how crazy this moment was. Someone goes, wait, where's the Canon C400? Which there's only like apparently a handful of these out in circulation right now. Turns out it was left in the back seat of the car, and somehow it's totally fine.
It's a tank, dude. So yeah, C400, it's kind of the best camera I've ever used.
What's that? What about it do you like in particular?
You know, I think one thing about it is just we just took it through a standard durability test.
Durability test.
And it held up great. It actually held up better than the vehicle.
What did you do for the durability test?
I left it in your hands.
She means Lucas's.
Lucas's hands.
So anyways, the ATV was all messed up. We had to like slow crawl this thing down the mountain. After a few minutes, the tire ended up shredding and we had to be even more careful. It was this whole thing. The cameras that we were all using were the L mount options. And so we, of course, adapted to the various lenses we were using. This past weekend, we were using the Atlas Mercury anamorphics, which just, I mean, Atlas anamorphics just always look incredible. But I was using a 𝗦𝗧𝗨𝗙𝗙 PL to L adapter, and the one I had actually had built-in variable ND. Now I developed a love-hate relationship with this adapter because it was amazing. It made me not miss my internal ND that my 6K Pro has, and it definitely solved that problem for the PYXIS, and you could easily do it. It basically was right here, right next to the lens. I could just roll it up and down. But it was so easy to access that a lot of times when I was holding the lens like this, my palm would adjust the ND, and that happened quite a bit throughout the day, and so that was a tad annoying. But since I've gotten home and had to order my own adapter because I have EF lenses, this is actually a locking EF to L adapter, and I can say I definitely recommend this one. I've tried a lot of adapters over the years, and this thing has no play to it. And look, you may say it's cheating just uploading beautiful anamorphic footage, but again, I don't think any of these first impressions videos are really focusing on the actual quality of this camera because we've seen the quality for over, what, a year or two now with the 6K full frame. It's the same sensor. We're all saying it in all of our videos. So we all know the image quality that this thing can produce. Blackmagic looks incredible. You can match it to almost any other camera out there. The big thing with this camera is definitely the ergonomics and the features that it comes with, and it definitely has some cons to it. I think we all agreed that we don't really like how the lock button is functioning. It's definitely a crucial button to have because while you are holding the camera, it is very easy to touch the screen and have accidental settings changes. That happened a number of times, but what I don't like is the fact that the lock button also locks up all your buttons, including the record button. So if you have lock turned on so that you don't touch the screen, it also means you can't adjust anything else or hit record. So we're all kind of hoping that there's a software update that will allow you to have this lock button only freeze the screen and allow the buttons to remain working. We will, of course, see if this lock button also makes the monitor freeze up. I really hope that's not the case. But that was definitely one of the biggest cons to this camera that I've seen. Now, despite me worrying about this being one of those cameras where the SDI port is easily cooked, I gotta say I'm really impressed by how well built this camera is. It definitely feels like a big upgrade from the very plastic feeling Pocket series of cameras. We were getting absolutely covered in dust and dirt being kicked up because we were all hanging out the back of these ATVs, driving down crazy dirt roads. We were also outrunning a forest fire, so that was fun. And so every couple of hours we were having to literally blow out and wipe off all the dust getting covered in these cameras. At the end of the day, I think we all knew what we were going to expect from the PYXIS image quality. But I think in the past 36 hours, we've put these cameras through more battle testing, dust testing, flip tests, to where we've pushed these cameras to their absolute limits, more so than I usually do in probably the 6 months of owning a camera. If you enjoyed this video and you're excited about more PYXIS content, finally, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.